And with me today, I sit down with Marci Hopkins, an award-winning TV host, author, and inspirational speaker known for her journey from trauma to triumph. As a host of Wake Up with Marci, she shares stories of hope, empowerment, and recovery with a mission to uplift and inspire her audience. Marci is also the author of Chaos to Clarity, a heartfelt memoir chronicling her experiences growing up in an alcoholic household and overcoming the pain of childhood trauma. Her story is one of courage, resilience, and healing, offering a beacon of hope for anybody navigating the challenges of trauma, addiction, and self-discovery. Welcome to the show, Marci. An honor to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you for having me.
A pleasure. So, Marcy, it'd be great for you to share a bit about your journey. Obviously, the environment that shaped who you are today.
Mm. Yeah, so my childhood was a difficult one. There was a lot of trauma, and I love that your podcast is Victim to Victor because I definitely was a victim in a lot of circumstances. My mother had me very, very young, and she had her own alcohol problems. And I moved in with my grandparents very young because I was beaten at a young age by her boyfriend and made a decision to stay with my grandparents. And there was a lot that went on there, but I was grateful to be there. So I did have a foundation that built me into a strong woman with morals and love. There was a lot of love in the house. And then my mother remarried when I was 12, and I was very grateful. I was so excited because I had dreamt of always being back with my mother, of course, and having this incredible life with her. And so I thought that this knight in shining armor had come in, and he was going to be the great dad that I had always dreamt of, and a great husband to my mother, and we would live happily ever after. Well, about 6 months into the marriage, um, sexual abuse started. And so that was a very, very hard time. I started failing out of school. I was losing who I was. I wanted to end my life. I thought there was no way out. And the most difficult part was that I shared with my mother what was going on through some other circumstances, and she stayed. It's not that she didn't necessarily believe me. It's just that now that I'm older and I've gone through a lot of healing, my understanding now of my mother is with her alcoholism and being a very weak person, I don't think that she had the strength to leave. She didn't know what to do. And she took him at his word that it wouldn't happen again. And she stayed. And so that was really difficult to feel that you're not protected, you're not in a safe place. And I started going outside of the home, trying not to be home a lot. And this shaped how I was in my relationships. I was always afraid of being hurt. It was very hard for me to get close to people. I never really trusted the relationship or that someone loved me or truly cared about me. Uh, it was hard. And I turned to alcohol myself to cope with the pain. While I didn't really have a lot of direction, I somehow found direction. And I went to school. I ended up in the media industry, and this was fantastic. I found something, a path that I thought that would be something that would bring me joy and a passion that I could go after. And I I was successful in my work, but all along I was struggling all the time, right? I was in difficult relationships. I was playing the victim all the time. And while I was moving up the rungs in work, it was still very difficult for me, and I was drinking every day. I mean, it was just a part of my life. And ultimately, I had a really successful career, but there were these times where I felt like I was just living with a mask on, and inside was deteriorating. And it just was a really, really hard way to live. And I know that I'm sure a lot of people out there can relate when you go through trauma and you've had alcoholic parents. I mean, you just become a chameleon, and you will, and a survivor, but all the while, you're a victim yourself, and you have this victim mentality, and it affects every part of your life. And even if you look successful, every day is a struggle. And so, there's a lot more to the story, but I will tell you that it gave me strength and it gave me resilience, but it also destroyed the person that I was. I mean, I had lost who I truly was through that process.
Oh, yeah. No,
Mhm.
thank you for sharing that. It's sounds like a real tragic journey, to be honest. Because you mentioned about the relationship. So how
Yeah.
did how did it impact on the relationships?
So, well, first of all, I always had to be in a relationship. I
Mm,
did not trust myself alone. Um, Having attention from a man validated me. And I always felt that I would put all of my emphasis on somebody else because I didn't want to, I was too afraid to look at myself. It was too uncomfortable to face myself. I didn't know how to be alone. I didn't know who I was. So I always tried to care for somebody else. And so, but through my relationships, it would be the cycle of jumping in really quick, falling in love really quick. Um, whether it was, your boyfriend, girlfriend, or you move in together. I mean, it was just always this cycle. And then I would like try to change the person because it wasn't that I was in a good relationship. I mean, the person I was with really wouldn't treat me well, but ultimately, I don't know how great I treated that person either because I wasn't treating myself well. And
mm,
so everything was very volatile. There was a lot of screaming involved. That was all I knew. And so, and both of us were always drinking. And towards the end of the relationship, I would get to a place where I wasn't happy. And the way that I dealt with that, I would go outside of the relationship. I would find another person. I would start the cycle with them. I would leave the other person and they would bridge me because I never was going to be hurt. You will not hurt me. I will hurt you before you hurt me. And then I would start the cycle in another relationship.
mm,
So that became the cycle for me. And, you may tell me you love me, but I really didn't believe that you loved me because how could you love me? Was I really lovable? I didn't feel I was lovable. Because I really didn't like the person I was. And so that was really the cycle of my relationships. And I'm married. I'm married over 20 years now. And even then, when I found the man that we ended up getting married, I was all in and we started a family together. But honestly, I never truly believe he ultimately loved me. And that's really, really hard.
mm,
And so we had children together, we were building a life together. It was the first time that I was in a stable relationship. I was living and uh, I was building a roots in one stable place. I'd never done that either. I was always moving and
mm.
um, starting over in life. So it was different. It was very different, and it was uncomfortable. Uh, we say that we always want this better relationship or we just want peace, but when all you know is dysfunction, you create the dysfunction even if there are peaceful times. So my husband and I, we started going through a lot of difficult times. I didn't even think that I liked my husband, and it was hard because I was raising the kids by myself. He was working all of the time. I started a new career, and again, I wanted, parenting was hard for me because I didn't want to ever be like my mother or my father that was never around, and so I had abandonment issues because of that. So there was a lot of dysfunction, and really that dysfunction I know now that I brought into the relationship because of how broken I was.
Mm.
And my husband had his own issues, with his parents and his father not being around for him a lot and pushing him, and he was so driven, and I needed I needed someone soft, and he wasn't that person. But I also didn't know how to accept softness, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Um, yeah, so it's really interesting because we were at a place where we were almost going to divorce. I mean, he was not happy with me, and I felt I ultimately hated him. And when I got sober and started my healing journey, that is when we started really meeting each other and healing together and growing together. So it actually makes me sad now because I have healed so much and found this beautiful place with my husband. And so I know that the struggles people go through in their relationships, but I know that there's a way that you can find that love and a place to come together again if you're both willing to do the work and heal together. Um, but you both got to find your place in that too,
Yeah.
right? We're all so quick to say it's the other person's fault, but
Mm.
honestly, it's like when I found a way to go within and find myself and find the self-love and find the way to communicate and all those things, all the things that we have to do on this transformational journey.
Yeah.
And my husband was meeting me there.
Wow.
We were able to grow and just build this incredible life together, and now we can't wait to grow old together. It's really incredible, and a beautiful place to be, but it's a lot of work to get there.
It is absolutely. And this is why, if there's one person, one partner who's actually on this healing journey and the other partner just isn't, then
Um,
you end up going different
yeah,
ways.
you can't heal when the other person's not willing to do the work also. That is for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that situation is quite common. But yeah, and just very some interesting insights there. Thank you so much for sharing those. And I just loved when you talked about softness because that represents like, the masculine energies that were obviously dominating you. And so I guess, it took a lot of healing in order for your feminine energies to then be more prominent. Yeah, probably not dominant, but yeah, prominent. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
I had so many walls built up around me, and honestly, it was just no one was going to hurt me, right? But it's when we get vulnerable and we are willing to open up is when we show the most strength,
yeah,
truly do. And
100.
that's where those magical things start happening and the growth starts happening. And it's so hard to believe that, right? When you're in it, when you're in the thick of it.
Yeah,
Uh, but when you slowly start bringing those walls down and start asking for help and start looking at yourself and start healing in all the ways that we can heal, um, that's when I've become my strongest self, because it's putting a it's still being um, strong in that I have boundaries, but boundaries in a different way, you
Yeah.
know, or um, being loving towards myself and allowing self-care for myself and doing the things that I need to do to be the best version of myself, to be the best for other people. I didn't know how to be any version of myself except for however I thought you wanted me to be.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
you can't be your best when you're trying to be what you think the other person wants you to be.
True. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. So what was the actual turning point that actually set you on your path to healing and
Yeah.
transformation? Mm,
Yeah, so I actually went after a lifelong dream in my 40s to be in front of the camera.
mm,
I'd always worked behind the camera in the media. I was in operations, I was in on-air promotions, I was in programming for Fox Cable Group, and and then I retired and became a mom and a wife. And it was several years later, after my kids uh were starting to get older, and life was kind of taking me in this place of wanting to pursue that dream I had when I was a teenager, to be in front of the camera. So I started putting it out there. The universe started bringing me all of these people that could help me to do this. And it was just like one thing after another. It was just happening and progressing so quickly. But it was very, very difficult for me. One, now that I look back, I was starting perimenopause. So I was, oh, I mean, that's just a whole nother story of dealing with the self-doubt and the insecurities and the all of the things that were happening internally and chemically that I just really didn't understand, and it was really breaking me down.
mm,
And then being in front of the camera and feeling judged all of the time, and now I don't love myself, I'm insecure, and it's like I feel like I'm being judged all of the time, and that was so detrimental for me. And then to try to be the full-time mother that I wanted to be and be the best mother, but also pursue this career that I had to really, I had to learn. I was trying to educate myself. Was 25 miles from New York, so I was having to go into the city, and it's just this roller coaster, because your agents call you, you've got a gig, or you've got an interview or an audition, and you've just got to drop everything and be available the next day. So that was
wow.
very hard.
Okay.
Finding a way that I could have someone care for my kids or get them to school, and then I'll get to the city. So there were so many balls in the air at that time. So what did I do? I turned to the only coping mechanism that I knew, and that was alcohol. So I started drinking like before an audition, and that was like my liquid courage. And this just started this slippery slope for me. And the drinking elevated, the difficulties in my marriage elevated, my feelings of self-loathing elevated. So it was just this storm that was brewing, and things just started tumbling down. And I knew that things were not good, but what did I do? I started blaming every circumstance or person in my life, or my husband, and this storm that was brewing, just it finally was a hurricane. And once this hurricane was in full force, my drinking was at an all-time high. I was on the brink of divorce. I was not being the mother that I wanted to be. My my path and my acting was not what I wanted, and it all came to a head. And the final straw, like when you are drinking and you're on a path of addiction of any capacity, it's something that is like a slow, they call it the slippery slope. You know that maybe the drinking is elevated. You know, maybe your eating is elevated. You know that these things are happening. And you start, like, for me, seeking ways to balance it, or maybe drink normally, or, whether it was hypnosis or acupuncture or all these other different ways, instead of the one thing that was, you know, for just abandoning drinking altogether. I didn't know how not to drink. It was all I knew. So finally, um, I had gone to AA, but then I started comparing myself to everyone in the room because I still was functioning in the community. I was still a mother. I was still involved in school. I was still doing all these things. So I said to myself, well, I don't have a drinking problem, right? And I also all the time was comparing myself to my mother's drinking, and it was not like that at all. I mean, so I started drinking again. And during that year, the cycle got really, really bad. And I ended up going on a modeling gig. And that day I got a DUI.
Hmm.
And that day when I got the DUI, my husband ended up picking me up from the police department. And um, I was angry. I was angry that he found out. I somehow thought I was going to hide this. I went to bed angry, but angry, like, I think I'm angry at him, but really the anger is at myself and full of shame and self-loathing and like, what have I done, right? And so I wake up the next day and I'm in the guest room of my home, and I am just like broken. I mean, I am completely broken. But it was in that moment that I was able to surrender. It was like something came over me, and I just surrendered to the fact that I needed help, that I had a drinking problem, and I could not continue the way that I was. And I went downstairs. My husband was down there, and I sat down with him and I looked him in the eyes and I said, I need help. I'm an alcoholic. I have a drinking problem. And, I just, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And he embraced me instead of leaving me and taking the kids, which is what my biggest fear. He embraced me and he showed me love, the love that I'd always been seeking.
Wow.
And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And it was like the weight of the world came off my shoulders. And I started my path of healing and I never looked back. It was like, this is it. I've surrendered. I've given myself over to my higher power. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. And that's exactly what I did. And that's what you have to do. You have to be at that point where you are all in, or you're not going to create the change for yourself.
Wow. Really.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it just, because they say as well, it just takes one person to believe in you as well.
Yeah, and he saw something in me I didn't. And, my book is called Chaos to Clarity. And like, my life was utter chaos, but I knew nothing else. I
Wow.
knew nothing else. And it was through my healing journey and transformation. It's like seeing the signs. For me, it was the signs from the other side, right? It was just, I kept being guided and look and open to the signs, and being, I don't want to say reactive to them, but open to the guidance from you, the universe, right? And then breaking the cycles, like these generational cycles that we all have to deal with.
We
I
do.
mean, it's just passed down, and it's in us at a cellular level, right?
Yeah.
And I just I just had to break the cycle. And I've learned how to break the cycle. And I just hope to be able to help others to find the clarity in their lives to live the best life possible because I've learned how to do it. And it takes work. There's no doubt. It takes action. Takes
Mm,
action.
it does, yeah.
The ultimate thing is that I have found is self-love, finding the love for yourself. And the only way you find that is going within. I used to go externally to get that validation. And it's everything we want in this life and desire we want, what we want is within.
Yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so, what kind of practices did actually help you, or are there any kind of key tools that helped?
Yeah. And I think anybody that's on a healing journey or it self-improvement will hear the same things over and over. And you hear the same things over and over because it truly is the path to the healing. So for me, it was building in spirituality, turning myself over to my higher power, understanding that there is something bigger out there than me,
Mm,
and letting go of trying to control everything in my life. I mean, the ultimate divine is just waiting for us. So I, myself, for me, was asking Jesus to heal me, asking Jesus to guide me and free me from my addiction and find a better way and path in life. And I said to him that you are my shepherd and I am your lamb. And I have done that. Every morning, I connect to my higher power. There are meditations that I listen to on YouTube. They're like 10 minutes, it's a 10-minute meditation connecting to God. And it's not God in any religious connection. It's just a connection to your higher power and a divine source. Okay. And then there is the practice of gratitude. So living in that place of lack and feeling you have nothing and that life is always happening to you is going to keep you stuck in a place where negative things are always happening to you. So once you start this gratitude practice, and that for me was before I get out of bed, identifying things that I'm grateful for. And when you're going through the muck, it is hard to find things that you're grateful for.
sure.
But honestly, I mean, if you think about it, we have so much more than so many people in the world.
Mm,
And if you can just think about the small things, clean water, a bed that you're sleeping in, clean sheets, clothes to wear, food to eat, the ability to, you know, have food, the coffee that you drink in the morning. Like there's so many things, a warm shower.
mm,
It's just finding those small things.
mm,
And as we start to um, really build on this practice, we start to vibrationally lift ourselves out of this place of pain and suffering and anger and anguish and jealousy. And we build on this place of peace and love and joy and serenity. And when we are at that vibrational state, we start to attract and become magnets to a beautiful life.
mm.
And so Rhonda Burns, she is the author of The Secret, Hero. There's so many books she's written. And one of the quotes that she has that I love is the universe loves a grateful person because a grateful person is a magnet to all that they desire.
Mm,
And I am living proof that it is the truth. So there is that. Meditating, quieting your mind, listening to your intuition is so important when you're guiding, looking for the guidance and the clarity to what it is that you are, your path to your happiness. Because we all have a path to happiness, and all of our paths look different. And then ultimately finding the love for myself, that was huge. And through these practices, I identified and reconnected with myself and started um, finding myself, finding my passions, finding the things that made me happy, and allowing myself to do those things, giving myself permission to do things that fill my cup, that make me happy, so I can be a better person for others. We so often are people pleasers or are doing things for other people constantly because we think that if we're constantly doing for others, they're going to like us, they're going to accept us. But the reality is that we just become a shell of a person and we live in this anxiety all the time and we're failing all the time because you can't do too much. You can't be great at too many things.
mm,
And you just live in this place of overwhelm. So it's through these practices that you allow yourself to create these safe boundaries for yourself, allow yourself to do the things that you need to do to nurture your soul, to be better for yourself. Forgiveness is huge, finding forgiveness. These are all things I talk about in my book, Chaos to Clarity. Forgiveness of yourself, because we stay stuck in these stories of our past. Like, there are so many things to help us on these journeys, but I would just say if you're just starting, just allow yourself a little time in the morning before you get out of bed, before you grab that phone, before you start the chaos of the morning routine with your kids or wherever you're at, or the even the negativity of the news.
mm.
Fill your soul with an intention of positivity. And I would say just find something on YouTube. If you don't know how in the beginning, there's so many guided meditations that you can do on YouTube. And then envisioning yourself having a good day
Yeah.
and just finding those things that you're grateful for and just starting those practices. And then, finding someone that can help to guide you, or programs that can help you, because doing it alone, you can't do it alone.
Mm,
You have to find people that can help you on this journey,
yeah.
because you're going to trip up and you're going to feel isolated and you're going to feel overwhelmed if you try to do it all on your own.
Wow. Thank you. Touching that. And
Yeah.
so, what's next for you? Any exciting projects or events coming up?
Yeah, yeah. So one thing that's happening, I'm launching my podcast show, Wake Up with Marci. I'm continuing the journey of Wake Up with Marci. But what I love is on this journey now of being able to put this on podcast platforms is that I will be able to reach more people. And I'm just so excited to to be able to dive deeper in the conversations because on a TV show, you only have very short segments. So you can't dive too deep into your conversations. And so the tagline for my show, Wake Up with Marci, is a deep dive into self-discovery because it all happens from within. So I'm just so excited to be able to share more on my podcast and also partnering with USA Today and having video and also articles available on USA Today. Continuing my journey with my book, Chaos to Clarity, Seeing the Signs and Breaking the Cycles. It's coming out in Spanish. So
Wow.
I'm so excited about that.
Mhm.
I have a book, a collaborative book that has come out with the Women Thrive group, and it's Women Thrive, and it's inspirational stories. So I'm really excited about this collaborative book that has come out. I also have a book coming out with a huge spiritual teacher, motivational speaker here in the United States, Les Brown, but he's probably known nationally and internationally. And so I have a collaborative book coming out with him now, and not sure of the name yet, but that'll be coming out. And just continuing seeking motivational speaking. I have some great programs and I'd love to offer your listeners a free start on their path of self-love. So I have put together some steps to start their path in self-love and creating a change for themselves. And I'm just so excited to continue this journey to help other people. That's truly what I've now realized, that that is my path, to help others and be of service to other people.
Wow, yeah, it's obviously using, what your insights, or your experiences and everything that you've learned to now help others on their journey, I think.
Yes, I tell you, sometimes we, turn that pain into passion. We got to go through a lot.
Yeah.
Um, but if I hadn't gone through it, I now couldn't be doing what I'm doing today and really connecting with people
Yeah,
uh, where they are on their journey.
very true. Yeah, wow.
Mm.
And so what message would you like to leave for my listeners who are navigating their own journeys of healing and self-discovery?
Yeah. Well, I just want to tell you that, first of all, you're not alone. You're not alone. That your past does not define you. And it's so important that we learn to move past the pain from our past, because our pain from our past keeps us stuck. And there's so much help. And with all of the things, if you're listening to this, that means that you are on a journey to helping yourself to live the best life possible, be the best person for yourself and for others. But just remember, you have to take action. Action is key in anything that we do, and that you can do it. Anything is possible in this life, and you are deserving and you are worthy.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Marcy.
Uh,
And where, sorry, where can everyone find you?
oh, please, everything is at Wake Up with Marci, wakeupwithmarci.com. I'm Wake Up with Marci on social media. So please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. Even if you want to email me at wakeupwithmarci@gmail.com.
Beautiful. Wow, thank you. I really enjoyed this amazing talk, and you're just wonderful. Like I just love the way that you describe, your own journey and everything that you've learned. It's just really endearing and really clear and really t touching. I know that your messages really hit home, like
Thank you.
for a lot of people. So
Thank you so much. And thank you for what you do. I mean, there's a reason behind why you do what you do. And it's just, you know what? We have listened to the calling, and we're very fortunate in today that we can have the capability of getting out there and helping the people out there.
So much gratitude for that as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you. So, my beautiful listeners, that's all we have time for today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and please do reach out to our wonderful Marci if you would like to find out more about what she does, or if you just want to connect. I'm sure she'd be honored to hear from you all.
100%. I'm here.
Perfect. So, thank you so much again for tuning in today. I look forward to seeing you in the next show. Stay blessed and take care, my friends.